All right. Hello. We can start, I guess. Nice. So, it's a really great honor for me to be here. And I would like to say a big thank you to the organizers for their excellent hosting and their nice hospitality. I'm Vasilis Keleris. I'm Automation Test Manager at Bally's Intralot. And today, we're going to see how AI empowers QA. And we're going to see some live demos, how we start from test case all the way till the end, developing the test code automatically with the help of AI. So, a few words about us. What's Bally's Intralot? Bally's Intralot is a leading global provider of lottery solutions, delivering high-tech software to the global gaming industry. We are a multinational company, and we operate across 18 countries across the world. All right, so I guess I'm assuming we all know what a test case is. So pretty fast, a test case is a set of instructions, of rules, that define how we're going to test a specific product, either a website or a mobile application. And we need, with this way, to be sure that customers' requirements will be satisfied. So I would like to make a question to you. How many of you are developing test cases in your day-to-day activities? Please raise your hand. All right, we have a lot of people here. Okay, you know the pain of creating test cases, eh? And now, how many of you have completely, if you are automation engineer, so how many of you have completely different automation in your repo than what is described in your test cases on Jira or whatever platform you use? No one? You're all professionals. Very nice. However, this is not the usual scenario. We have two different realities. The first one is the reality that lives in our code repo, and the second one is the reality that lives in our written text, the plain text and natural language, the Jira test cases. So we end up maintaining documentation, maintaining automation, and maintaining the gap between those two. But what if I told you today that there is a way that your test cases can become your test code automatically without even writing a single line of code? Let's see this. Before we start, let's go back in time and remember how was a typical day at work of an automation engineer. So the automation engineer would read the Jira story, then he would devote some time to create the test cases, okay? He would write these manual test cases on the issue tracking platform, then he would convert those test cases into automation, then he would get stuck on a problem, so you would search for 2-3 hours on Stack Overflow, you remember? Then he would devote another 2-3 hours to debug a locator issue. Then again, he would search on Stack Overflow for another issue. 2-3 more hours would pass. Then another day would fix a flaky test because the UI element is not clickable or the input of the text cannot be entered in the text field. Then this is the moment he realizes that everything is broken and he needs to ask from his senior. Okay. And then this process would repeat day by day, test by test, all the time. Suddenly, the requirements from the customer changes, and all this was pointless. We have to do it all over again. But now with AI, things are a lot different. Okay, we can save a lot of time and be more productive than the example before. All right, so here we show you an example of playing a lottery, a wager lottery. This is a product of Bally's Intralot, the Malaysian lottery. We play a wager, so we select some numbers manually. For the Greek audience here, imagine playing Joker Kino or Fall Win or Pap. All right, so we select the date, we validate the cost, the purchase was successful, and we managed to buy successfully a ticket. This is the manual process. Let's automate this. Now have the Jira Business User Story. This has all the details from the customer that we need to satisfy when we test the product. And this is only just a snippet here. This is not the actual text. It's much more lengthier, much more longer. This is just a snippet. And we have a lot of different details here. For example, we have details about the different play modes of the game. It can be straight or system. We have details about lucky pick, when you choose your numbers automatically, or choosing from your favorite ones, or manually selecting your numbers. Then we have details about the draw dates, the coupon cost, whether you want to buy now the ticket or purchase, add it to cart for later purchase. So all these details are described in the Jira Business User Story, which is, again, is a lot longer than this text. With this text, the automation engineer should infer and create the test cases that will test the functionality of the product. And for example, here we have created for you 3 test cases. The first one is to play the wager using the lucky pick option, selecting the number automatically. The second test case is to play the wager by manually selecting your numbers of your desire. And the third test case is by selecting some numbers from the saved favorite ones. All right. Imagine we have unlimited number of test cases here we can create. The only limit is your fantasy. The only limitation is your mind. And for example, we can have another test case I can imagine now is an edge case scenario, like trying to play a wager with less numbers than the minimum required for the wager, and this would result in the system not allowing you to proceed. Or you can have a negative test case, where the player would not have such enough balance in his wallet to buy the wager. So this is another test case that can be added to this whole list here. All right. But now we proceed in the AI era, where things are different. What we have here? We have the well-known to all of us pre-trained huge models in the market. We have ChatGPT from OpenAI, Claude from Anthropic, Gemini from Google, Grok from xAI of Elon Musk. So we have these very good pre-trained models with a lot of power, and we combine these models with the company's knowledge, which comes into which format? Into Excel files, into PDF files, into Word files, JSON files, text files, even images. So combining these two powers, these two pillars, and feeding this information inside the so-called AI agents, and using the technique named RAGD, Retrieval Augmented Generation, we are able to create a very good LLM and ask him specific prompts and get back a reply that is specific to companies' products, because it is trained on companies' information. So this is an example of our internal build tool inside Bally's Intralot, again built with AI. So React for the front end, Spring Boot for the back end. We provide the Jira Business User Story, some arguments about the minimum and the maximum test cases, and behind the scenes, specific APIs are called for the LLMs to generate the test cases automatically. And we will see, we have 8 test cases generated. If we click one of these, we will notice that all the information is uploaded on Jira. So no work need to be done by the engineer. This is done automatically. And in the past, we had to type manually, one by one, all these test steps by hand. Imagine the pain. So now, with no effort, LLM has created all the test cases with all the test steps uploaded on Jira, and we're ready to go to translate these test cases into test code. All right. So the next phase is how we move from the test case we created before, very fast with AI, to the test code. And for this, we use, again, a perfect tool of Microsoft named GitHub Copilot, which, what is it? Again, it's a wrapper that allows us to call specific LLMs. Okay. But this time, we need to provide to Copilot some context. And what is the context? The context comprises of 3 things. The first one is the test case, which is what was created before by AI. So the written text, the natural language, the plain text. Then the web page So we need the HTML and CSS of the website that we are testing, and the existing automation code, meaning the code that the automation engineer has in his workspace, so Copilot can learn the code patterns, how a developer writes the code, what functions he creates, what locator XPaths he writes, to learn from these patterns and be trained to provide to you the new test case of your design in your stack that you will define to the GitHub Copilot. So this is the way that we can generate the code automatically. Firstly, we right-click, inspect the element of the website that we want to test. We copy the HTML and CSS, the DOM of this website. So then we go to GitHub Copilot, our IDE, where we can see on the right side we have Copilot, on the left side we have our code, and we start providing the details to the model. And we say to the model, please create a JUnit 5 test case with Java, with Selenium, with WebDriver, Google WebDriver, Chrome WebDriver, and all the details. Then the test case that was created before from AI, the plain text. And finally, we provide the DOM, the HTML and CSS that we picked from the website before. This is the code. And now we see that Copilot starts reading our classes. Now it reads our Java classes to understand how we route our code. And it has created 4 steps: study existing test patterns, study page objects and helpers, and then he will create the new test case. And finally, it will verify that this newly created test case works correctly. Now we're able to keep what was produced automatically. This was produced automatically, or either modify some specific lines of code if we wish. But this is accepted as created by LLM. And we can see it's very close to the style that we write our code. We have annotations at display name. We have the page objects. We have the functions to interact with the website. We select the numbers of our choice here, hard-coded. We press the button. We make the assertions. It uses JUnit assertion, the library, so it has understood from our code what kind of library to use for the assertion. So then he asserts that the previous balance minus the cost of the wager will give us the new balance of the player. And then we see the page object. If we open, it has very nice structured locators, XPaths, and very nice functions to interact with the buttons and the elements of the website. All right, so this Java is ready to be run, and if we execute, we will need that at first try with changing no code at all. We get the balance of the player. Now this is automated code. It runs on its own. We get the balance. We play the wager with the numbers we hard-coded before. We validate the cost of the wager. Again, we get the new balance. We make the assertion that the subtraction has been done correctly, and the test case passed successfully. And this was, how much time did it take? 1 minute. You imagine this to be completed in the past would take a lot of hours. All right, so from this demo, some remarks. So, based on our experience using these tools, we have estimated that we have faster test creation of about 30 to 40%. Also, we have better alignments with the requirements from the customer, because AI produces huge variety of test cases to cover all the aspects of the product. We have reduced duplication and better code quality, since AI for sure provides the best practices for our code. But we also need to keep in mind that validation is always needed from the human factor to see that the results are good for us, because AI can make mistakes. We also need to be very cautious about security, so these models need to run locally on your premises, in your company, on your premises, so no sensitive information from the, imagine that the requirements from the game, they cannot leak outside the company, they need to be inside our servers. So this is very important, the models to run locally on the premises of your company. And finally, please devote as much time as you can when you write your prompts. Try to provide the more feedback you can to the model, because you will see that you will be rewarded in the end. Because if you provide a poor prompt, you will get back a very poor reply. But if you provide a good prompt to the model, the test case that will be generated will be very close and ready to be pushed in your repo and ready for production. And in closing, I would like to show you a quote I really believe in. And this goes like, AI will not replace QA engineers. However, QA engineers who use AI will replace those who don't. So, thank you for your time. Please visit us in our booth number 14, where Bali Sintralot is located. We will be more than happy to discuss about future opportunities with us and discuss more about these AI tools if you're interested in. And also you will have the chance to try our custom-built spinner. And if you're lucky, you may win some exclusive prizes we have for you. Thank you.